All right, good morning, everyone. We have to start off today before the meeting recognizing the passing of one of our employees, and I'm just going to call on the CAO to say a few words, and then after that we will have a moment of silence as well.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve and Council. As many are aware, we lost a valued member of our municipal family on Friday of last week, Mr. Don Kopang. Don was born April 24th of 1961 and was hired by the MD of Bonnyville on April 15th of 2013. Over the 8 years that Don spent here, it was apparent that he was a kind gentleman with an incredible love for his family. He talked continuously about his grandchildren, and it was apparent that they were cherished by him. He was also described as fun-loving and as a jokester. Don was an equipment operator for the MD, and as an employee he was committed, responsible, and dedicated to the best ideals of public service. On Friday of last week, while operating an MD gravel truck, Don was involved in a terrible motor vehicle accident that claimed his life. In the short 8 years he spent here, Don made an impact on many of the staff, and it is clear that he will be greatly missed. The celebration of Don's life will take place on Saturday, August 28th at 1 p.m. at the Elk Point Allied Arts and Leisure Centre, and I would ask that we observe a moment of silence in Don's honor.
Okay, if we're going to observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Yeah, certainly from council, our thoughts and prayers go out to Don's family, and certainly to all of the employees who knew Don, and those involved in Friday. It was a tough day for everyone. So it takes time to heal from these things, and we're just hoping that our staff can work through it, and that again we look out for Don's family. Thank you. With that, I'll call the meeting to order. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
None from staff.
Okay, thank you. With that, do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll make the motion to adopt the agenda as read.
By Councillor Duchesne. We can call the vote. That is carried. Thank you. You have before you the minutes. They were sent out in the package for the regular meeting of council, August 11th, 2021. Are there any errors or omissions there?
I'll make the motion, Mr. Reeve, to accept as presented.
Okay, Councillor Jubenville makes the motion. We call the vote. That is carried. Thank you. We have no public hearings. We do have a delegation from J. Wood Livestock Services at 10. Any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none. Right into new business, environmental and protective services. And presenting is Mr. Gandolfi. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Reeve, members of council. Representing Matt Yons this morning on behalf of Environmental and Protective Services. The MD of Bonnyville Agricultural Services Board has been monitoring crop and forage conditions over the past 5 weeks within the municipality, and have seen no notable improvement in the condition. With record-setting temperatures and little to no moisture throughout the growing season, farmers and ranchers are experiencing drought-stricken crops, poor forage yields, diminished feed and pasture grazing, and increasing costs for feed to sustain their herds. Farmers are being forced to make harsh economic decisions in their agro-business this year. Following their review, the ASB is recommending to council that a municipal agricultural disaster be declared in the MD of Bonnyville.
Okay, thank you. We have comments from the Ag Service Board.
Yes, this was a tough decision to come up with. We weren't sure if we would meet all the criteria, but the numbers come in. Staff did a great job bringing all the numbers to us, and it's and members at large that are part of the committee all agreed we should do this, and in support of our farmers and for our neighbors, because it looks like it's going to be, by the time we count all the crops and everything, it's not going to be good for us. So just asking for support on that.
Council or Deputy Reeve.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve. There are pockets of average crops, yes, but there are areas of very poor crops in this MD, in my ward as well. So we recommend that we accept this as disaster, ag disaster.
Okay, that's a motion.
Okay, I'll make the motion. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. I sat in on that meeting as well, and the information presented that had been gathered by staff was exactly what the Ag Service Board needed to help make the decision. So kudos to them. The big thing is on this one, and I did a number of interviews there on throughout late last week, and is that it's so widespread. And so that's the part of the impact on the locals, is that in other years where if you have a drought or something that prevents you from getting enough feed, there's always been a feed source elsewhere that you could bring it in from. With this being really from east of Calgary to Manitoba, there is not enough feed to go around. And if there's stuff coming from the east, it's likely not to make it past Manitoba right now. And the cost of feed is well beyond any business case possible for cattle producers. Personally, we're looking at probably selling about 20% of our cattle herd, and in order to make it through the winter. And I've talked to a number of other producers. Most are selling their calves pretty quickly here. We would normally market them in February or March. We will be selling those in September, October. Same with cull cows. Normally we'd have a dozen to go. It looks like 20 or 30 may go. So those numbers are going to be going to the auction mart, and I'm sure Councillor Jubenville will see lots of phone calls in the next few weeks. So yeah, fully support the motion by Deputy Reeve. Any other comments? Okay, with that we can call the vote. That is carried. Thank you. Next item. Sorry, did we jump? We jumped. Okay, that was important though. We missed the Fire Smart one. I didn't pick up on it either.
My apologies. Okay, concerning Fire Smart, wildlife mitigation strategy for the MD of Bonnyville was completed in February of 2020 with funding assistance from the Provincial Fire Smart Grant Program. Administration is proposing to apply to the second round of the 2021 Fire Smart program to implement phase 3 of the wildfire mitigation measures recommended in the strategy. I do have Janice here who can answer any questions in relation to this initiative.
Okay. Questions? Councillor Fadeev.
So in regards to the Fire Smart program, this is just continuation of what we did last year, and this is phase 2, and we're continuing with this program next year as well.
Just looking at the cost and source of funding, it looks like the total project cost is up to $200,000. And it's indicating here that the project would only proceed with grant approval, and 100% of the funding would be sourced through from the FRIAA Fire Smart Grant Program. The only cost to the MD would be our in-kind staff costs associated with the grant administration and project management.
Councilor Swigert.
Mr. Reeve, yeah, it says here that, I'm trying to understand the phases, because it says this will be phase 3 at Evergreen Estates. Now, I'm not sure why, what does phase 1, 2, 3 mean? Because it, like, Evergreen's totally different than the other two or other areas we've done. So will this just continue on, though, throughout the years, or is it, why is it kind of like phase 1, 2, 3? Is that the end of it? We get no more phases, or does anyone know that? I'm not
I
sure.
really do need to bring Janice up for this, and she can maybe address some of this.
Actually,
Were there not 5?
through the Reeve, I've had the opportunity to work with Matt and BRFA on the previous 2, or actually 3 other grant applications. So the process of this was, initially we did receive a grant to complete the wildfire assessment and analysis, which was completed. From that project, there was, I believe, 5 subdivisions and communities within our MD that were identified as high risk. So following that, we took that recommendation from the consultant and we started implementing control measures and the next phase. So of the 5 communities that were identified, we started with the first one, which I believe was Crane Lake, and then it was, or was it Murray Lake? Murray Lake first, and then Crane Lake, and now we're on to the 3rd. So each one of these has been a grant application submitted to FRIA, which is an arm's length. They receive the money from Alberta Forestry. So the priority listing was definitely a part of the initial assessment and report we received from CPP Environmental, which is actually posted on our website.
So,
Councilor Swigert.
so Mr. Reeve, so does that mean, though, that, like, will it be 5 phases, or is this the last of 3 phases? Do you know?
Through the Reeve, with every application that is approved by FRIA and the provincial government, it will continue to the end.
Okay, so just I shouldn't get hung up on the term phase then. It's just, this program goes on forever, basically, if we can apply for it? Is that it?
At this time, based on provincial budgets, yes.
Okay, thank you.
But however, depending on next spring, it's all up to the province.
Mr. Reeve, so just to clarify then, Evergreen Estates, is that the subdivision next to Pine Meadows off Highway 55?
Evergreen Estates, is that not off 660? Evergreen, north side of Moose Lake,
Is it? Okay.
Evergreen?
by the provincial park.
Oh, maybe.
Moose Lake
Yeah.
Estates is south, closer to the lake, and Evergreen is just north of it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
It's kind of close to where the DP part was.
Want to make the motion? Okay, Councilor Jubal.
Yeah, so Mr. Reeve, so is there, you can apply for 200,000 per year, is that correct on this program?
Through the Reeve, I don't believe there is an actual maximum. I don't remember a maximum on their terms. However, through the application process, we are required to consult with the department to give them an idea of the scope of work of which we're applying for, and they kind of give us good feedback as to what would be approved and what would not be approved.
So is it also matching dollars? Like, does the MD have to invest money in?
Through the Reeve, no, we do not.
No.
The only thing we contribute is our in-kind, which is the project management and the costs associated with our involvement as a stakeholder.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and make the motion that we go with option number 1.
Okay. And that council approves the submission of a grant application to the Forest Resource Improvement Association of Alberta for up to $200,000 for fuel and vegetation management measures at Evergreen Estates and the Fire Smart Education sessions. Okay, any discussion on the motion?
Mr. Reeve, just a quick comment, and I think I'd asked this before, but it'd be nice to get some feedback from, how did it go at Crane Lake? How did it go at Murray Lake? Just sort of have somebody come in and just show us images and tell us what worked and what didn't
Sure.
and whatever. So, yeah, thanks.
Okay.
I have a quick question. I was just wondering, is that, we initiate that through the Ag Department, or, no? TNU?
Mr. CEO?
Thank you, Mr. Members of the Council. Typically, Mr. Yons himself, it's kind of a mixture of ag, forestry, emergency services. Because the BFRA actually runs the program for us, Matt deals directly with BFRA.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, nothing else? We can call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, we'll we'll carry on. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, planning and community services.
Administration is seeking approval for road allowance license bylaw number 1778, authorizing the MD to enter into an agreement to license a road allowance in accordance with our policy number 4A.007, licensing of road allowance policy. Bylaw number 1778 is a road allowance license agreement application as per the legal land description in Appendix A. It's to be What a rookie. My apologies. Now I have to start all over again. Sorry about that. Administration is seeking approval for road allowance license bylaw number 1778, authorizing the MD to enter into an agreement to license a road allowance in accordance with policy 4A.007, licensing of a road allowance policy. Bylaw 1778 is a road allowance license agreement application as per the legal description in Appendix A to be used for efficient fencing of Southeast 3261-1 west of the 4th Meridian for agricultural operations. This portion of Road Plan 1814 EU is undeveloped and is not required for access to any residences. A copy of the roadway license agreement application was provided to both Infrastructure Services and Environmental and Protective Services for review and recommendation, and there were no concerns noted. So attached for Council's information in the Appendix A is Bylaw 1778, as well as the associated map of the area. The application fee for $150 for this 3-year agreement application was submitted and paid, and administration is recommending that Council, that bylaw number 1778, being a bylaw of the MD of Bonnyville, number 87, road allowance licensing be given first reading.
Okay. Questions? Councillor Duchesne.
Yes, I was wondering, when we license that road allowance, and we have two different landowners, one on each side of that road allowance, I was just wondering what our policy is for fence building if people are pasturing cattle on both sides of that road allowance. So this person, will he have to build a fence on his side and the neighbor's property line, or how does that work? I'm not sure what the policy is.
If both are pasturing cattle, then both are responsible for fences on their property line. This is for the road allowance. Obviously, one is looking to access it for use.
Do we know if it's to be pasturing cattle or just to have access to the land, or?
We understand that it is for pasturing, I believe. Is that correct? Not noted. So it was noted as agricultural purposes. What the use specifically was not provided. That being said, as part of the process based on the policy, after first reading is given, all adjacent landowners are contacted. And any issues, any concerns are then submitted to the MD, and then we bring them back upon for council consideration before we proceed to the next reading.
Okay. Because I'm getting quite a few questions with the tight cattle pasture we're having problems with right now. The cattle are being pastured right over each fence, and they're having problems with the cattle mixing and getting into crops and stuff. So people are asking for a clarification on how we fence that right away off when we have cattle pasturing on both sides without having the cattle touching each other over the fence. So, and the bulls fighting, and it's an ongoing problem and it's creating a little animosity among the farmers there. So I just wonder if we could have some clarification or more information brought, because I think the how is it, the Cattle Grazing Association or something, or the fence, there's a fencing association that states what their policies are in that case, but I don't know what our MD exact policy is, so I can't explain it to them unless I know it.
Through the Reeve, it's my understanding that the landowner is responsible for their own fence. So in this case, like you're saying, if we're giving them access to this road allowance, and now the landowner who's applying for it is going to, if they want a fence put up on either side, whether it's this is a different landowner and this is a different landowner, this landowner has to put up his own fence, this landowner puts up his own fence. The MD cannot force either one, and please, Mr. CEO, step in if I'm incorrect, to put up a fence. It's just our recommendation. That's as far as we can go.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve, members of the council. I would suggest if council, this is only first reading, so there is no license being granted. We can certainly, for second reading, after we get all the comments back from adjacent landowners, we can certainly come back with exactly what our fence policy is and a recommendation at that time as to what our fence policy maybe should be. So this won't come back for probably 6 weeks, something like that, by the time we reach out and do the contact adjacent landowners and collate the responses. So the council will have an opportunity at that time. This is only first reading, so.
Yeah. Thank you.
Councillor Swiger and then Jubinville.
Yeah, I'll just make a comment on what I think I've heard, that if it's a crown lease, so if the farmer's leasing crown land, it's part of their lease agreement that they have to build a fence on their side of the road allowance. So these are white areas. Are those leased or are those owned on the map? I know that, like, we have a map and we show green. I think green is owned and white is leased from the Crown.
I'll just ask Lisa Folliott, our manager in planning and
So
development,
that makes
to step
a
up
difference.
and
So.
confirm that. Just one moment.
Yeah, those are private.
Yeah, this is actual titled
Yeah.
land. It is
Okay.
titled land.
Yeah.
Okay, because we do have that issue where we've got people leasing crown land, and you're supposed to build a fence. It's part of your lease agreement, so that kind of comes into it.
Councillor Jubinville, sorry about
So this is a new license and not a renewal, right?
Correct, yeah.
Right.
So, Mr. Reeve, I'll make the motion for first reading.
that. Okay, thank you. Further discussion? Okay, we can call the vote. Maybe? I think somebody jinxed us this morning.
Mr. Reeve, Mr. Reeve, to Councilor Duchesne, did you say there could be some bullying going on there?
People have to remember that good fences mean good neighbors. It's pretty
Yeah.
simple.
Maybe shut it all down and then.
that
Yeah,
was mine.
okay, we have to go by hands again. All in favor of the first reading? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, next item, municipal planning documents, timeline update.
Yes. Administration is providing an update to council on the completion timelines for the MD of Bonnyville planning documents currently being updated and/or created through consultants' assistance, including the major area structure plans, or MASPs, priority list, which was approved by council through resolution on March 6, 2019. This is attached in Appendix B. Administration has attached the updated municipal planning documents list and timeline for 2020 to 2022 as per Appendix A. The priority list projects scheduled for 2022 to 2025 remain unchanged. Some highlights of note include the intermunicipal development plan with the City of Cold Lake and the LaCorey MASP have been carried forward from 2020 into 2021 due to the restrictions and limitations that were created with the COVID pandemic. The municipal development plan, the Ardmore MASP and Cherry Grove MASP reviews and updates are currently ongoing, as well as the initial stages of the development of a municipal land and reserve bylaw. The Moose Lake MASP and Highway 55 MASP reviews and updates are scheduled to start in 2022, pending completion of the Moose Lake Drainage Master Plan, which is currently being undertaken by Infrastructure Services. A land use bylaw update is required due to the annexation of Improvement District number 349 into the MD of Bonnyville and the changes to our municipal boundary. A number of other items have been earmarked for amendment and consideration within the land use bylaw. In summary, attached for council's information in Appendix A is the updated municipal planning documents timeline and priority list for 2020 to 2022. And in Appendix B, the MASP project priority list as approved by council back in March of 2019. Reference to the strategic plan, this does refer back to goal number 1, building a prosperous and sustainable community. We reference Part 17 of the MGA, which focuses on municipal planning documentation. All of the projects that are identified are either included in our, actually they are in our operating budget within planning and community services, as well. They are, some of them are funded through the Alberta Community Partnerships grant through the province. Administration's recommended action is that council accepts the municipal planning documents timeline update as information.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Councillor Fadeo.
Yeah, thank you for this. In regards to the project priority list, when are the completion dates expected on? And we see a start date of 2021, and some of these in 2022. Is it going to be a 6-month process, an 8-month process?
It's on the chart.
It's on the chart.
Through the Reeve, are you referring to a specific project?
Yeah, so say in Appendix A, we have the list of when they're going to start.
So, through the Reeve, our approach to this, we did want to give council some projected timelines and new estimated completion dates as per the end of the bars in each of the tables. That is what we're proposing is going to happen. Unfortunately, due to COVID restrictions being so up in the air, for example, we had no idea that the restrictions were going to be in place for 1.5 years, which really limited the amount of public engagement in the open houses, which we weren't doing during that time. So that went and expanded the timeline immensely. So, for example, the Fort Kent ACP was completed before the pandemic. However, the LaCorey one was in limbo for 1.5 years. So once we can continue moving forward with our regular scheduled program, then it'll be completed based on the timelines presented in Appendix A, is the hope.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, with that, do we have a motion to accept this as information?
Mr. Reeve, just, sorry, just a question. 2021, though, says the major area structure plan for Ardmore. Well, we're into 2021. I don't see that happening this year. So is that your project priority list schedule, so why wouldn't it say 2022 or 2023? Because it's not going to be done in 2021.
It has already started through the REEF. We have started work. We have a consultant that's been committed to a 3-year consulting services for the items identified in the project priority list in Appendix A. So that is a 3-year contract we have with Urban Systems. So there is work that has already started.
So so this isn't a list of when they're going to be complete. This is just a list of kind of when they started. Is that what you're saying? Like Ardmore, for example, or Cherry Grove.
Yeah, it's,
20
if you scroll down, you'll find the timelines.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Thank you. So that one, sorry, that one says February 2022. Okay, well, thank you. It's all there.
Okay. We had a motion from Councillor Fadeev to accept this as information. All in favor? By hand? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, we are at 10 o'clock. Do we have a delegation?
I believe so. If we could actually, Mr. Reeve, if we could take a 5-minute
Sure.
break, just to
Okay.
ensure eScribe is.
Okay, let's take a recess. All right, we are back, and we have a delegation here from J. Wood Livestock Services, and this is in regards to livestock emergency preparedness. Okay, do we have the delegation on?
Yes, Mr. Reeve. We will pull Jennifer up on the big screen. So just for clarification, J. Wood Livestock Services were the consultant retained by the MD of Bonnyville to complete our livestock emergency response plan update.
All right, good morning. You have the floor, Jennifer.
Okay, good morning. And you can see my presentation.
Yeah, we've got it.
Kick it over to full screen now and make my way through this. So I was brought in to develop your livestock emergency preparedness plan for disaster response for the MD. So you guys receive funding through the provincial government to develop the plan. They've been encouraging municipalities to incorporate livestock into their disaster plan the last several years. So I'm just going to walk you through the 2 documents. They're quite large, so this is really the 30,000-foot view of them. I will be up on Friday to do a tabletop training with your staff, and then I'm doing first responder training on Saturday and Sunday. So just a wee bit, we start off with an introduction to livestock and agriculture in the municipal district of Bonnyville. So you guys have cattle, sheep, pigs, bison, elk, poultry, all within your municipality. And whenever a disaster strikes, when you do have livestock around, livestock are always impacted by them. So that is part of what this program is about, is having preparedness to deal with the livestock when something goes sideways. So emergency plans, I really emphasize they need to be localized to make sure all your resources are local and easily accessible. You want it to be flexible also, because every event is different and simple to implement. So we don't ever want to overcomplicate things. So just a bit, there's 2 documents that I developed for you. The first one is the Livestock Emergency Preparedness Resource Guide for the MD of Bonnyville. So it's very specific to your area. It is a living document that has all of your resources in one place, and it's intended to be updated on a regular basis. So it contains, it has the intro. I've used livestock use definitions. Also, we define those for you, all the agencies that are involved. We had to do, as part of the funding, you do a livestock industry hazard and risk identification, also resources, and then your emergency response agencies also for resources. So I'm just going to show you some example of some of the pages within this document. So this is just where we go through and we use defined livestock use. So what are the different areas? What is a bovine? That is a cow. So this is really intended to define livestock in different parts of our operations for people who are not familiar with it. So we have that in there. The roles and responsibilities of the different provincial agencies. As you can see there, we've got the beef producers, bison producers, the elk producers, the Equestrian Federation, and all of their contact information also for the province. The next section is the livestock industry hazard and risk identification. So we identify the hazard and then what is the risk with it. So if you have a naturally occurring hazard, and this is hazards that occur without the influence of people. So these are very weather-related, extreme temperatures, drought, which down here in southern Alberta we're dealing with right now. There's human-caused emergencies, building or structure collapse, power outages, water contamination. And then another category is livestock welfare emergencies, which are animals seized due to neglect and loose livestock fall in that category. And then here's one that shows you the weather and some of these risk hazards we just spoke about. So if you have a building, the entities building collapse, the entities impacted are the livestock housed in the building. Impact can be catastrophic, and the potential impact on the animals: injury, lack of housing, feed and water, animals are trapped. So we went through and we defined each one of the hazards, how they impacted the animal, and what the specific impact could be on them. So, and this was part of the funding requirement to include this. So what we did is we went through and identified the most likely hazards to hit the MD of Bonnyville, and those are what were in that list. So that's in your document. So, and then we do livestock resourcing and facilities. So this is what you're going to need when something happens. We started off with the resource definition. So what do we mean by bedding? What is dead stock removal? What is livestock handling equipment? So we provided those definitions. And then we went through and I worked with your staff at the municipality to develop a resource of all your local suppliers to get the things you need. So who would be able to provide bedding, who's in charge of dead stock removal, grazing reserve is on there, where can you access livestock handling equipment. So, and we try to make it so it covers as much of the municipality as possible. So if something happens up in the northeast, you have resources up in the northeast, southwest, same thing. And this is the area that will need to stay updated. So we also went through and identified all your large production operations. So the first one there is bison, elk, and deer. So we went through and identified the location of them, the owner and contact numbers, and got an estimate of how many animals were on site. So the first one there with bison, you can see they have approximately 110 head. So that way, you know, if let's say a storm or something happens in that area where they are, you're aware of the fact that you're going to be dealing with possible 110 bison. So, but you can see we've got quite the list there. We got cow-calf. So we went through with all the species groups and identified the locations and got estimated animal numbers for that. And this is another area that will need to stay up to date also. We also, for you, identified your emergency hot zones. And that's like your gas plants, compressor stations, high list for large commercial areas. So you know where they are, and they were plotted out on a map for the municipality also. So we also went in and did your event facilities. So the location of the closest auction marts, any eventing facilities you have in your area, such as the Bonnyville Rodeo Grounds, Cold Lake Egg Societies. And we look at these twofold. So one is, so we know if a disaster hits, what facilities are in that area that could possibly have animals in them. The other side of it is if disaster hits, what facilities do you have available for evacuation of the animals? So they can either be part of the event or a resource for the event, but knowing where these animals are and how many animals can be housed there. So like Dargis feedlot you have there can take around 600 head, and that's how many head they may have there also. So, and your lone Hutter Right colony, and they have poultry there. So, and then we went in and plotted it out on a map. So you can see the little key there. So when you pull up this map, you know exactly where the facilities are located that is in your resource list. And this is something we will utilize in the tabletop training on Friday. So, and then we just did a resource list for all the legislation that applies to livestock. Emergency disease, if there's disease outbreak, is listed here also. And then all the resources for destruction and disposal of dead animals in Alberta, because we have quite a few regulations around them. So, and here's your emergency response agencies. So we have provincial list on there. We have the Canadian Food Inspection Agency on there. You can see RCMP on there, and also your resources within the MD. So document number 2 is a static document, and it is the response guidelines. So this is what you do and how you respond to things. So you can see here for the content list, there's quite a bit in here that outlines it. So I'll just quickly go through those. So once again, risk identification and mitigation. So when you have an incident involving livestock, what is the human risk, the animal risk? There's biosecurity risk and property risk. So those have been identified. So this section here on the livestock disaster guidelines, I don't have time to go through all of them. Like I said, this is part of what we're going to do on Friday. But basically, we cover general livestock handling, what you need to know about housing and containment of animals in a disaster, transport, evacuation, what you have to set up for evacuation, biosecurity, identification of animals, triage, euthanasia, and what you do with dead stock. So here's an example of the section on evacuation. So how to select an evacuation site and how you implement the evacuation of animals out of the area. Livestock incident response. So this is how you respond to each of these different incidents that are possible. These are the main ones that we identified for Bonnyville in here. Building collapse, here's an example. So what are the entities impacted? And here's how you respond. So if you have a building collapse, these are the things that you need to take into consideration and should be part of your response. Winter storm and blizzard is another one. So once again, what entities are impacted and what your response should be. So the other part of this program is the training. It's the final part. We've kind of delayed it a little because of COVID, because this is something that really has to be delivered in person. So on Friday, we're doing an emergency preparedness training. It's a one-day tabletop training for the MD staff and personnel. We will review the entire program, which I just showed you. So we'll go through each section. And then I have tabletop scenarios to where I sit down and I work the groups through and say, okay, if this happened in this area, tell me what you're going to do based on what you just learned. And then Saturday and Sunday is a 2-day training focused on disaster response and motor vehicle accident response. This is a program that's targeted at first responders. So what I've done is I've developed a training program specific to the MD of Bonnyville that incorporates in my livestock emergency response training, which is a generalized one, and then pulls in all of your emergency preparedness plan. So we train them to your program also. So the first day is in class. So it's classroom setting, and day 2 we have animals coming in and we actually do animal handling and work animals through some different situations to give people the hands-on experience for that. So that is truly the 30,000 foot view, and I'm not sure if you guys have printed copies of it or if you have any questions for me.
Yeah, we've got the whole presentation here. We'll just take questions from council this time. Anything? I just had one question in regards to the livestock producers. I'm just wondering the source of that information, because it appears as though there's a couple thousand cattle missing. There's a number of large livestock producers who are not on the list.
That would have been Justin. So you guys provided the resource list. I think now, because this has been a bit, I think I started off working with Mike and then Justin came in during the
Okay.
development of the program. But
So
those
because-
are you guys provided that back to
Okay.
us to put in your resource list.
So it is a living document, and we can work on that one for sure. I guess I would just suggest that maybe administration work with one of our local experts here on council who's involved in livestock sales, and the others who are involved in the same thing throughout the MD to get more accurate numbers on the producers.
Yep, and you can send them our way, and I can document it. But the document is living for you guys also. But
Okay,
yeah, that's intended to be changed. So
Councillor Jumbo.
Yeah, so my question, I guess, Jennifer, is are you just trying to get a cross section, just an idea of, or are you looking for a list of all producers? Because there's definitely this is just a very partial list, right? And also a couple pretty major bison producers that are not on the list also. So I'm not sure what was trying to be, what you're trying to achieve here, or.
the intent was that
This list is for 100 plus head.
Yes, so it was intended, so we did set, because what happens in some of, almost all the municipalities, you can't find every horse. So we set a limit, so, any facility that has more than, I'm totally making this up because I don't have the numbers in front of me, like 40 head of sheep, 10 head of horses, 100 head of cattle, whatever. So we did set a parameter on the most important, that's what should be on there. And then the other thing I try to look at is, like, if you have what I call a stable gate community, which you can have a community that's a neighborhood of a whole bunch of acreages that have, everybody has 1 or 2 horses or something, we identify the neighborhood or that area versus the individual producers. So that's kind of the guideline that was set out on identifying this. So it is intended, though, to have your major production, all of your bigger guys have to be on there. It shouldn't just be a sampling, but it's really hard. I mean, you got people who have like 20 backyards chickens, and that gets really hard to target down on them. So we try to take, like I said, a neighborhood of acreages that might have multiple animals in them and just identify that area. But then we also go after your bigger producers. So if you have some major bison producers, they need to be on there also. And that's up to you guys also. I mean, how far down you want to go for for your area.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
No, thank you, and that's good. And I'll just be probably looking for a report after the tabletop and the training is done, which will be nice. Thank you.
Okay.
If I'd ask one thing, if there's some big ones missing, right off the top of your head, if somebody could give that Justin and shoot it to me so I know for the tabletop training, it'd be nice if you happen to just have a couple or we can just add that for the tabletop training on Friday, if there's ones that you want to make sure are included in that.
Sure, we can provide some of those. Okay, no other questions. We just need to accept this as information. Thank you for the presentation.
Yes, and there might be more listed on the other page. I don't know, do you guys just have my PowerPoint or do you actually have the documents?
We have the document? No, the PowerPoint. Okay.
Okay, because I did not take every page out of the document. So within that document, there's actually more pages.
Okay, we may be missing that. Okay, thank you.
That might be it.
Mr. Reeve, I'll make the motion to accept this information.
Okay, thank you. And our e-scribe is still not working, so we still have to vote by hand. All in favor of accepting as information? That's carried. Thanks. Okay. Okay, we're back into the agenda with corporate services. Good morning. Good morning, Council. And the first thing is appointment of a chairperson for the Local and Composite Assessment Review Boards.
As per section 454 of the Municipal Government Act, council must appoint one of the members to the Sorry. I'm
all
going
right.
to do this all over as well. Okay. So as per section 454.1 of the Municipal Government Act, council must appoint one of the members of the LARB as the chair as well as the CARB. But CARB is in section 454, subsection 2, to appoint one chair for both the LARB and CARB. Bylaw 17442 establishes the LARB, and Bylaw 1743 establishes the CARB, and defines that the appointment of the chair position occurs annually at the municipal organization meeting. This appointment did not occur at the 2020 MD organizational meeting. An appointment is required should the MD boards receive any appeal submissions for the 2021 taxation year. We have received some assessment appeals, so there will be a CARB scheduled later in the fall, and the need to appoint a chair for these positions. The current members of the LARB and CARB at the MD are Councillor Fadil, Mr. Tolley, Mr. Martin, and Mr. Young. So we have attached for council the bylaws that establishes the LARB and the CARB for the MD of Bonneville. The CARB listens to assessment appeals that exceeds 4 or more units, and we do get a member from Municipal Affairs that sits on the CARB, which is the Composite Assessment Review Board, whereas the LARB just has the members of the ARB set in. So administration's request is for council to select the chair for both the LARB and the CARB.
Okay. Councillor Fadeev currently sits as the chair. And are you happy with that position? I say yes.
I'll make a motion that we appoint Councillor Fadeo as chair.
Thank you. And that's for both boards.
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yeah, just, Mr. Reeve, that's probably fine. Councillor Fadea is not saying too much here. The CARB, though, was normally when you have the Composite Assessment Review Board, you bring in somebody from the city or whatever, and they chair that board. So I'm not sure how that's working. Councillor Fadea can comment.
Did you want it?
Actually, we have an expert at the podium.
Okay. Through the Reeve, Councillor Fadeo is still the chair. Municipal Affairs does send a representative to the meeting, but the chair of the CARB is still the person appointed by council.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion to appoint Councillor Fadeev as both chair of the Local Assessment Review Board and the Composite Assessment Review Board. Any further discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Good luck with that. The next item is the expense transfer request to taxes.
As per section 553 of the Municipal Government Act, council may add the amount of expenses and costs of carrying out an order under section 646 of the MGA, enforcement of a stop order. The MGA establishes the council's authority to add amounts to the tax roll of a parcel of land. One of those amounts the council may add is the cost incurred by the municipality to carry out an action or order that is part of the enforcement of a stop order. We do have a stop order that's in place right now for a piece of property in the municipality, and this request by administration is to transfer the amounts outstanding under that to the titled land that's associated with the stop order. As you will see in the listing, there are multiple roll numbers listed, and the stop order the outstanding amount is being transferred to the tax roll for these properties, and the tax agreement will then be entered into by the municipality and the individual that owns this pieces of land for the repayment of the outstanding amounts.
Okay.
The total amount under the stop order at this time is $192,959.57. This was equally divided between the tax rolls affected and listed on the order.
Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve, members of council. Just a reminder to council, this was an item that was discussed several times in closed session, and this is the kind of final steps in terms of finalizing that agreement.
Councillor Fadeev?
I think there's a couple of them that were talked about in closed session, so I'm not sure which one this really is.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve, members of council. So this in particular was a development that had some highway improvement that was attached to it. And I think the total value at that time, we had come to an agreement with the developer to pick up 50% of the cost, and the agreement was to put it back on taxes, and then we'll enter into a 3-year agreement with the developer to pay back that amount owing.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, good work by administration to put together something that is, you had to think outside the box on this one in order to get some of these funds back. Councillor Jubenville.
So basically, the costs that were incurred in the stop board, it's construction costs for the most part, right? Is that correct? Okay. Well,
Okay, so on this, we just need a motion to approve this transfer. Councillor Fadeev?
I'll make the motion for the recommended action that we're stated.
Okay, the council approves the amount of $192,959.57 incurred by the MD of Bonnyville from a stop order issued to subdivision approval 2008-S-56 to be added to the tax roll in accordance to the chart there. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up is infrastructure services. And the
Good morning, Mr. Reeve, members of council. I'm before you today with a grocery list of RFDs.
okay, first one is the regional airport update.
It is. All right, so improvements at the Bonnyville Regional Airport have been ongoing throughout the summer since administration was given the direction to perform the improvements in-house. As work at the airport is substantially completed, administration is now providing an update to council of the progress and the budget status to date. Infrastructure services started working on the airport improvements on June 15th, 2021. Base work was performed on the taxiway to prepare for a cold mix surface, as well as connection of the taxiway to the runway. Additional work at the airport included drainage improvements, parking lot repair, and resurfacing. This work was completed August 12th, 2021. Work still to be completed in 2021 is the lighting replacement, seating, and access improvements. New airport lighting will illuminate the aircraft parking area and the entire length of the runway. Taxiway lighting is not included in the current lighting option. However, high-intensity reflectors will be installed along the taxiway to improve taxiway delineation from the runway to the parking area. A total approved budget for the airport improvement project is $1.8 million in surface works, with an additional $400,000 for lighting replacement. As of the last generated financial report, the funds spent on this project total approximately $660,000. Now, this was as of August the 10th, I believe. So I'll update those numbers as well. For the construction, with only an additional $257,000 to be forthcoming for the supply and installation of runway lighting. The total expected expenses for the project, including approximately $20,000 for contingency, is an estimated $970,000. There are a couple of attachments here in the appendixes. A summary of the review of expenses is on Appendix A. So if we look at that, the total approved budget is $2.2 million. Expenses total for the lighting is $88,000 and change. The installation of it is $167,650 plus GST. In-house construction, so at the time, August 10th, when we pulled these records, it was $659,620. That has, as of today, August 25th, The total is $753,663.37. So updating the numbers at the bottom for total expenses, substituting $659,000 with the $753,000. The total accrued and upcoming expenses are $1,005,700.66. So just over $1 million expected. So with the current budget remaining, $2.2 million minus the $1,005,700.66, it's approximately $1.194 million remaining in the airport budget as of today. So do we have the video? All right. So there is a video as well of the construction that was taken about 2 weeks prior. So significant changes have happened since then. You can play that. So Ag Services was kind enough to go out there and do some videoing for us. So that is where it goes south. The taxiway joins to the runway. That's looking east. So we're looking south again. And then now we're looking at the taxiway. So the taxiway was regraded and topped with cold mix. You'll see in the middle on the left-hand side, that is a parking area, and then on the right side is where we had all of the dirt piled up. That has since gone, and it's been topsoiled, ready for seed. We had just passed where the parking lot area is, and then we're going all the way back on the taxiway to the parking area, the aircraft parking area. Again, all services were performed in-house. The staff did a great job on it. They took it and ran with it, and it turned out really nice. So, all right. So, funding funds allocated in the 2021 approved capital budget, and the recommended action from administration is that council accept the Bonnyville Regional Airport project update as information.
Okay, thank you. Lots of comments from the users coming in out there. Very impressed with the work that was done. Yeah, and they're looking forward to the lighting. Good comments from council. Questions? Councillor Jubenville.
Question, Mr. Reeve. So regarding lighting, is there provisions for the taxiway lighting, or that's not deemed as necessary?
Through the Reeve to all of council, we have a plan for taxiway lighting. Just wasn't included in this round of lighting. So there are provisions for it. At this point, we have, like I said in the RFD, we look to what other what other airports had, and they have these blue high-intensity reflectors to delineate taxiways. We put those up in the interim, and then future planning would be including taxiway lighting.
Okay, thank you. Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Members. I'll just add to Councillor Jubenville's question that likely a 2022 project.
Yeah, so I guess my question was, is there provisions being made now that would help? Because I think the light, is it all new lighting that is going in for the runway and plus the parking area, whatever? So is there something that you can do at this point where it would make things easy to do the taxiway lighting?
Through the Reeve, what we have looked at is the sourcing of the lights is going to prove a little bit difficult before freeze up. So that is why we haven't done that at this point. It wasn't included in the first round when we ordered the lighting, so that's why the markers, the reflectors have been purchased. Going to be purchased.
Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve, members of the council. So I had either just started or just prior to my arriving here, the $400,000 for the light project was intended to be an internal project. The problem we ran into was the supply chain issues here due to COVID, is we could not find any of the materials that installers or suppliers would provide us unless they had the supply and install contract. We dearly wanted to do the taxiway lights. It just, with the supply chain issues, it just wasn't going to happen this year. It'll probably, we were fortunate that our procurement department and the guys in TNU were able to find the suppliers that I was actually very pleased with the price that it came in at, for a total supply and install, 150, 130,000 under what was originally budgeted. We will be sourcing stuff for next year and putting in a budget for council's deliberation this year for a 2022 project. We'll be fine with the reflectors. The airport in particular for night operations has lights. It just means an aircraft backtracking on the runway to get to the ramp. But it would certainly be nice next year to be able to open that taxiway up to night operations as well.
Okay, thank you. So with that, we just need a motion to accept as information.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Reeve.
Councillor Jubenville.
And I'd just like to say it's nice to see those improvements finally getting done there. Thank you.
Mr. Reeve, I'll just also say it's nice to see that you want to almost enhance the fact that it's saving us like half of what it was going to cost us, right, by doing it ourselves. So thanks for that.
Yeah, great job all around. Just a question then on the remainder of the budget outstanding there being carried over to next year. Will that be part of budget as far as discussions on other improvements possibly out there?
Thank you, Mr. Reeve. Members of council, yes, the leftover funding from this year, we'll certainly be putting in the budget and asking council to carry that forward. I think over the winter, we will have multiple conversations with council as to what our next step at the airport is. There has been some discussions on how we deal with current hangars and leases, the terminal building itself, and that'll be an ongoing conversation as to what the next priority is, and we'll certainly do that through the budget process with council.
Okay, thank you. So we had a motion to approve this as information. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, next on the list, 2021 dust control.
All right. At the May 5th, 2021 council meeting, council approved the MG30 and cold mix dust control list as presented by Infrastructure Services. This list included 9 MG30 and 9 cold mix dust controls. Infrastructure Services has completed 8 of the 9 of MG30 and 9 of 9 cold mix dust controls on the list. There were also 2 additional cold mix and 1 additional MG30 dust control that were not on the approved list, but have been completed. Since that approval date, there have been numerous requests for dust controls by residents and council members. Infrastructure Services is bringing back that list of unapproved dust controls for council's consideration. There are 17 requests for MG30, 1 of those has been completed, and 11 cold mix dust controls, 2 of those have been completed, on the list for approval. With the amount of approved rip and relay projects yet to be completed in the 2021 year, administration has determined that there will not be enough cold mix inventory remaining to facilitate any additional cold mix dust control requests without making additional material. There's approximately $38,000 remaining in the 2021 MG30 budget, which could do approximately 4 miles of road, 40 dust controls, or some combination of the two. There are 3 appendices attached, the list of the unapproved dust controls, the cold mix map, and the MG30 map. On that is comments whether it was completed, and then actual costs and then estimated costs of the unapproved ones.
Mr. Reeve?
Deputy Reeve.
Thank you. There was one dust control that was missed in my ward, north of Goodridge, 2 miles at the T. The TNU are now working there, according to administration, doing the rip and relay, but the entire 2 miles does not have to be done. So there's a long dust control for 2 residences at the end of that road, so the equipment's already there, so might as well do that dust control. It's an oil dust control, if there's enough room from the road. I mentioned that to Mr. Bespalko a while ago, but it was missed on the list.
Okay. They had put in an application on that as well?
I gave this to Mr. Bespalko over a month ago or so.
Okay.
Through the Reeve, yes, that is correct. I did forward it, and somehow it just didn't get on the list.
The reason I put that on is because the TNU is there already, doing the 2 miles north, right to the T, and that's where the 2 dust controls are. So might as well do them while they're there. The entire 2 miles does not have to be done. There's some good spots there as well, so that could be part of the 2 miles, if council so decides. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Fadip, did you have?
Yeah, just looking for some clarification. Good morning. Just looking for some clarification in Appendix A and to your additional requests under number 9, number 11, and number 17. I think that's all in the same area, so I just, and then there's some changes going from 200 meters to 500, and I'm just not, I just need some clarification on those points. So that's 9, 11, and 17.
Okay, through the Reeve. So what you're saying is that these were all in one line, or?
I don't
okay.
I don't know. I don't even know of these requests, but I know they're all in the same area, and they're in that the industrial park.
Okay.
And I'm just, just a question. It wasn't a request from myself at all, but I noticed it's going from 200 to 500 to 500 to another, 200, and that's like, we're looking at a kilometer, and I don't think there's that much road there. I'm not sure.
Through the Reeve, if this is all for the industrial park, that was, what we had done was taken the industrial park itself, because there's a road that goes into the loop, and then we did the loop around it. Not all the way around, but that totaled up to just over a kilometer of,
Okay.
Of dust control. I apologize, if this was all the same, we just have individual locations for them, and that's how they were listed. But if they are all on on that one industrial park, that would be, approximately a kilometer of dust control on the whole thing.
Okay.
For that industrial park.
So, so the second question will be under, again, Appendix A, under their coal mix project list approved. Number 9 on that was on Township Road 614 and 42022. It was completed. It says for 200 meters, we have a cost of $35,011. That seems staggering.
Through the Reeve, I know we project cost everything, so this would have gone to that project. There may have been some additional undercut work, like sub-base prep to do this one, but at this point I can't speak about the reason for the significant cost increase for 200 meters versus like the 200 meter ones prior to that.
Yeah, because that is it's kind of a dead end road, and there's not a lot of heavy traffic on it, so it's kind of concerned.
Through the Reeve, I can get some additional clarity on the cost breakdown for that particular one for you.
Yeah, Mr. Reeve, the dust control I'm referring to, there is a dust control, but there's dozens and dozens of potholes there. That's the reason that was added on. Thank you.
Mr. Reeve, I'll ask Mr. Bespalko about number 18 there on the to-do list or whatever, additional requests.
Okay.
So number 18 says Township Road 622 east of 440, so you'll just have to make correct, because Township Road 622 is paved.
Paved.
So it must be a fair distance east, and it could be, but I'm not sure where.
Okay, through the Reeve, let me again look into that again. When we get the requests, this is what we are, these are the locations that we're given. So, like I said, let me check on that one.
Yeah, the only piece of 622 that isn't cold mixed was MG30 this year. So,
And it seemed to turn out pretty
and
well.
it worked well. Yeah.
Okay, let me look into that for sure. I can get some clarity on that.
So let's just go back to your inventory.
Yes.
Because you mentioned that getting shy there.
That's right. We have approximately 20,000 ton of cold mix material remaining in inventory, with the remaining projects that we had on this list of that's in front of you. We anticipate about 18,000 ton to be used up in those projects themselves, which only leaves 2,000 ton for a contingency on those other projects. So we would pretty much be out of material, and that has to do with and we spoke about this in a prior council meeting where the cold mix, the amount of cold mix needed was based on a volume, or sorry, on a weight instead of a volume. So there are areas where the road may be a little wider, and in order to achieve the 3-inch thickness that we're trying to achieve, you end up putting additional tonnage on that road in order to achieve that. That's a lot of where the volume doesn't match the tonnage that we anticipated.
Okay. Councillor Jubenville?
So 20,000 tons, you think, so that will bring you till when? Till end of September, or would look after how many projects?
So through the Reeve, the additional projects that are remaining are going to be, should be completed. So we have 2, 3, 4, 6 miles, approximately 6 miles of rip and relay remaining. So that should cover us. In talking with my team, that's what they were telling me. We were doing a rough calculation of how many miles they had available, or how many miles they had remaining, and what it would take to complete them. And rough calculation is that's how much it would take, and we would be pretty much out of cold mix material. Now, on top of that, further on in the report, it talks about additional projects added after council approval that weren't included when we were first doing the tender for cold mix. We have the airport. We had 440 from 630 to 624, which is complete. That was a 2-mile stretch. Vezo Beach Road. So those projects ate up a lot of our inventory as well.
Councillor Jubenville.
So in speaking to your crew, so the 6 miles of rip and relay that you're going to be doing, when do you anticipate that, given good weather, when do you anticipate that to be completed?
We're working on, sorry, through the Reeve, and to all of council, we're working on those already, and I anticipate, depending on weather, hopefully we can get done hopefully by the end of September to get them all done. And again, that's a rough calculation. We have a lot of projects on the go, and we're at the mercy of the weather as well.
So you don't see any point in trying to mix more cold mix this fall?
Through the Reeve, no. And to all of council, I don't see the benefit of trying to get a batch plant in there and make some more. We just put these off till next year, make additional material next year, and try to catch up on them next year.
Yep.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay, where does council want to go on this one? Oh, Mr. Seo, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve. Members of council, I probably help a little bit. Council really has Well, there's several options. Is either leave the priority list for us to fill out the remainder of the $38,000 worth of MG30, council to pick the list, or increase the budget by some $20,000 and do everything that's on the MG30 list, or do nothing and end dust control for the year and put the 38,000 back in the piggy bank. Those are really kind of the four options council has right now. Is we prioritize, council prioritizes, we do them all, which would require an additional 20,000, or we don't do any.
Councillor Jubenville.
So doing dust control at this time of the year, would that be, if we do dust control on the road this fall, is it going to be effective for the following season? Should be?
Through the Reeve, in my experience with MG30, just MG30, I would anticipate that there would be some residual dust control left in the springtime. Doing it this late, what you're doing is preventing dust from harvest. We still got about 2 months worth of harvest left, so hopefully, fingers crossed, and that would just mitigate the amount of dust for the residents if you do it at this time.
With the inventory constraints, and it sounds like your workload is full to the end of the active season anyways. Is council willing to go with the first recommendation there as an option?
So the administrative recommendation was that council approve the MG30 dust control placement not exceeding the remaining 2021 MG30 budget, and furthermore, the council denies the additional cold mix dust control requests as presented due to lack of inventory. So, or we can do a portion of the remaining MG30 just to take care of a few. That there was one on the list that was approved prior that wasn't completed because it was a 300-meter stretch and we didn't have the product left to continue or to conclude that 300-meter stretch. So,
okay.
Mr. Rousseau, do we not have any MG30 left at all? Is that what you're saying, or not enough to finish? It'd be nice to finish what you've already promised, though, wouldn't it? But do you not have that product?
Through the Reeve, for MG30 and to all of council, for MG30, we order it by the tanker load from Cortec Industries. They send us out a tanker load whenever we call for it, so we don't have that product in the yard. It's just we call for it and they send it out, and we could, with a tanker load of 20 cubes, we probably do 8 dust controls, 8 200-meter dust controls, that kind of thing is what we get out of that, or a mile of road.
Councilor Scarson.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we go with the option 1 that they recommend.
The council approves the additional MG30 dust control placement not exceeding the remaining 2021 MG30 budget, and furthermore that council denies additional cold mix dust control requests as presented due to a lack of inventory. Okay, discussion on the motion?
It seems rather logical, doesn't it? If you don't have the inventory, you're not going to start making cold mix now.
No, Mr. I just would like council to also do dust control on 630 if there is enough left over from the 2 miles. If not, fine, we'll do it next year, if that's okay. Can add that to the motion. If there isn't enough, then fine, we don't have to do it.
Shane.
I thought we were still in August. I thought we still had a couple months of hard work to do, but I probably won't be agreeing with that motion.
Okay. Any other discussion? The option is you go back to get more money to get more inventory, right?
Just MG30.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, we had a motion for the first option. All in favor? All opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, next item. Construction award, sorry.
Mr. Reeve, can I just ask about that we made that motion, but the extra dust control that we're doing, that's like people have asked for that sort of after the fact, so you've kind of planned for dust control, and those are extras,
good,
right?
Good point to bring up. So I think for all of council is to remember, and maybe we can have that application sent out to all of council to provide to our residents, because we brought that in to try and get control over, you know, dust controls and when they're done, and prevent the jumping of the queue. So if people could get on the process and council can get on the same line of thinking, everybody gets treated equally then, and everybody gets their application in. We have good record keeping then, and also a good chance to budget. If we see a bunch come in, then we know exactly how much it's going to cost us. So.
Thank you for that, Mr. Reeve, and all of council. There is an application deadline for first round. I believe it's the end of March, and then there's another one at the end of April. I think, again, that's just if memory serves, but there's an application deadline. These additional requests have come in after the second deadline.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
And Mr. Reeve, I'll just add that, you know, I think as long as residents realize that there is a deadline and they can apply, then it just goes on next year. And we should be more than willing to just say to them, you know, we'll put you on the list for next year. Sorry, you missed our deadline, but then they're happy, right? Because they know it's going to happen.
Yeah. You're good? Okay. Yeah, it's good. You know, it's an easy explanation that goes out to the resident that, you know, we have a process in place and you're in the line, right? So fill out the paperwork and you're good. Thank you. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Ms. Kienbaugh just reminded me that it is up on our website under dust control policy. Okay. That's right. So the application deadlines and stuff are on our website under that.
Can we just have it sent to all of council so we have a copy there and we can have it in our records and throw it out there? A little easier than, it's not always nice when you have to tell a person to go to the website. Sometimes they want that extra little help. Okay, thank you. Okay, construction award.
All right.
Oh,
sorry.
The first one, go ahead.
Okay, this is the 2021 construction award for Township Road 630 from Secondary Highway 892 to Range Road 442. So this RFD is for the award of the Township Road 630 from Secondary Highway 892 to Range Road 442 reconstruction of 1 mile of grade-based paved project. This project was tendered on the Alberta Purchasing Connection and local media June 11th, 2021 and closed July 29, 2021. The work on Township Road 630 will replace the existing oiled gravel cold mix surface with an ACP wearing surface and will connect the recently paved section of Township Road 630 west of Range Road 442 to Secondary Highway 892. This tender was for grading, base work, and paving of Township Road 630 from Secondary Highway 892 to Range Road 442. There were 2 bids received, and the consultant, which was McElhaney Engineering, evaluated and scored the proponents. E-Construction was ranked the highest rated proponent after the evaluation, and the evaluation is below. And we have 3 appendices, the location map, the consultant's award recommendation and letter, and recommendation letter and bid summary, and the consultant's projected budget review. So the approved funding in the 2021 budget was $1,500,000. The budget required for construction, engineering, contingency, and wetland compensation is estimated to be $2,160,000. Now, administration is recommending that council approves canceling the reconstruction of Township Road 630 from secondary highway 892 to Range Road 442 for the 2021 construction year and retender the project in 2022. And furthermore, council directs administration to bring the additional project funding request to council during the 2022 municipal budget deliberations. So this was tendered out late in the year, and it's over what we had anticipated for a budget. And this engineering is, everything is all-inclusive, construction supervision, all of that.
Okay. Questions on this one?
Mr. Reeve, do have kind of comments about it, and I brought this up about a year ago that they should have, 630 was a couple of years ago, council had approved to have that done from east to west. Basically, it was about 8 or 9 miles or whatever. So, but we did break it up. But I'm just surprised that we had to break this 1 mile out because we had, I think it was, I don't know who the contractor was, but they did 1.5 miles or 2 miles of it up to 442, and they could have gone to the highway, but it wasn't part of the contract. So it was kind of weird to me that it should, had we had it in that contract, it would have been way cheaper because all their equipment was there. They could have carried it through. But anyway, I'll recommend that we carry it through till next year now.
Through the Reeve, I'll speak to that. The reason that 1 mile was left out was for environmental reasons. We had to do Alberta Environment. There was a wetland that was going to be impacted for that construction. We have just now received the compensation portion of that this week. So this would have all had to, if it was all combined together, this project would have waited until now, until we got the approval in order to start. So that's the reason it was taken out and sectioned like that. Not ideal, but that's the reason.
Okay, so that was a motion there from Councilor
Yeah, it was a
Swire.
motion to put it off until next year, retender. It'll probably come in cheaper. And
Yeah.
and then I will just ask though, because we're extending that, it's also part of that is to go east on 630 to 433, I think it is, or whatever. But is that going to be part of the same contract, or will it be separate bids again, or separate tenders?
Through the Reeve, that would be a separate contract.
So I'll just ask that you look into it, because I think that's on the books for next year too, and I'm not sure if you want to make it a separate contract, because again, you've got equipment there doing the work. Why wouldn't you have? I'm not sure why wouldn't you make it part of the same contract, but I'll ask you to check into it.
I think it's coming up, in the agenda here as far as the engineering award.
7.4.6 brings up that road, so it's coming up.
Okay, so we have a motion that council approves canceling the reconstruction project for Township Road 630 from 892, that'd be west to 442, for the 2021 construction year and retender the project in 2022. And furthermore, that council directs administration to bring the additional project funding request to council during budget deliberations. Further discussion? Okay, well, Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve, members of council. Certainly, if it makes sense as part of the budget process to combine several projects into one tender for next year, absolutely. But right now, it's a separate project, and canceling it as a separate project. And like I said, if it makes sense to combine it with something else next year, for sure, that's what we'll do.
Okay. And all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Next item. Councilor Duchesne.
Well, we're discussing that Township Road 630. I was wondering if I could ask admin or somebody in that department to explain to me or show me on aerial photos 630. I'm not sure why, but if you follow that road and follow the yellow lines, the road seems out of whack. Do we have aerial photos of that or historic photos of that road? Because I'm trying to explain that to people why it's.
Who wants to answer?
Thank you, Mr. Reeve, members of council. We can certainly, for the next council meeting, bring back some aerial photos and have some information on the routing of that road. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're into 7.44.
Sorry, I apologize. I'm just making some notes here.
Okay.
All right, this is the 2021 Engineering Award for Gravel Roads Reconstruction Package A. So in the 2021 budget, we had 6 gravel roads for reconstruction. We split those up into 2 3-road packages, and this is the first of the 2 packages. So this RFD is for the award of engineering services for the reconstruction of 3 gravel roads. Township Road 590 from Range Road 481 to Range Road 483. Range Road 471 from Highway 28 to Township Road 600. And Range Road 472 from Highway 28 to Township Road 600. The MD of Bonnyville received 7 consultant proposals in response to the RFP. Administration scored the proposals based on the following criteria: project understanding, methodology and approach, project team, relevant experience, similar projects completed, proposed project schedule, and cost. The final scores of the submitted consultant proposals and proposed engineering budgets, including construction services, are as follows. So here are the 7, and there are the associated costs and the scores. The costs and sources of funding. The approved funding in the 2021 capital budget is $260,000 for the 3 roads, broken down as below. $100,000, $80,000, and $80,000. The budget required is $342,780, which includes contract supervision if required. Additional budget in the amount of $82,780 can be obtained from the Road Improvement Reserve Fund. Administration is recommending that Council approve the award of the engineering services for gravel road reconstruction Package A to SE Design for the tender price of $342,780 plus GST, and furthermore that Council approves the additional funds to be transferred from the Road Improvement Reserve Fund.
Mr. Seo.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve, members of council. So this staff report and the next one are some cleanups on some unusual processes that were in place prior. So this one, it took me a while to get my head wrapped around what was going on. We kind of got to the bottom of it, but these are cleanups from some processes, and what we really bumped into on this one is there was the engineering estimates were not even in the ballpark. Typically, we plan engineering to be somewhere between 8 and 12%. And once you know the project scope, you just basically, for budget purposes, take an 8 to 12% of that for engineering, and these are clearly insufficient. So this and the next staff report are again just cleanups of some prior unusual processes.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Swigert.
Yeah, Mr. Reeve, I'm trying to kind of wrap my mind around this. So this is just engineering, engineering work. So no road construction. So, and then they'll supervise the job apparently. So, sorry, what was the? So we're building those 3 roads. What was the length of those 3 roads, and then what was the cost of building those roads? Mr. CEO was just mentioning it should have been about 10% of the cost of building the road into engineering, maybe. So, are those numbers reasonable?
Through the Reeve, I would have to look back at the budgeting sheets, the 5-year budget sheets that we had for these projects to get you a budgeted number for them. Right now, I don't know. Sorry.
But this is all part of the process of getting us doing engineering one year and doing construction the following year.
And so just my question was, and you'll probably have to come back with that though, are those numbers reasonable though, or because it's 342,000 or whatever, is that a good number for engineering for those 3 roads? I'm just thinking gravel roads. I didn't really think we had to do as much kind of engineering as we are. I thought we could kind of do that, but.
Mr. Seo.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve, members of the council. I'm comfortable with the numbers, and I can't remember exactly what they were. I asked the same question regarding gravel roads. These ones, unfortunately, are in difficult areas, hence the requirement for some engineering. The other thing I would also mention is exactly as the Reeve has indicated, this is as we discussed earlier at a previous council meeting regarding getting engineering done before. Now, included in this is project supervision. However, these projects were not approved by council when they come to council in terms of an actual budget for the project. The engineer or the project supervision part of this won't be paid out. This is the total number including supervision of that project, but if that project is deleted by council or council doesn't want to do it or it's not budgeted for, these numbers will actually decrease because this includes the entire project supervision as well.
Okay. Councillor Shane.
I would request that we bring these three 7.43, 7.44, and 5 into closed session for a quick discussion, if I could, please.
Okay, that's a motion for closed session. All in favor?
Mr. Reeve, if I could ask for the record, the under what will be the reason for the closed session, land, legal, or labor?
Because of problems with engineering, with listed here that we'll be discussing, and I don't want to bring up any names or anything, but I would like to discuss the problems before we make a decision on this.
Are you saying legal?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion to go to closed session. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. All right, we're back from closed session, and in regards to closed session, we have a motion coming out. Deputy Reeve.
Certainly. The motion is that council directs administration to seek legal opinion regarding the item discussed in closed session.
Okay. Thank you. That's my motion.
Okay, thank you. No further discussion. All in favor? That's carried. Now, in regards to the item on the agenda that we were working on, that was the construction award or engineering award for 7.44. Councillor Fadeev.
I'd like to make a motion that council directs administration to bring back additional information on the award for a future meeting in council.
Okay, thank you. And all in favor? That's carried. Okay. Next item, 7.4.5.
All right, 7.4.5 is the 2021 engineering award for gravel road reconstruction on package B. Would you like me just to skip to the council options?
Yeah, we can go right to the options. We're looking at the same situation on these next two.
Okay.
Okay, the options are?
The options are that council approves the award of engineering services for gravel road reconstruction package B to SE Design for the tender price of $344,002. And furthermore, the council approves the additional funds to be added to the infrastructure services 2021 capital budget in the amount of $164,002 from the road improvement reserve fund. There's also the second option is that council denies the award of the engineering tender, and furthermore, the council directs administration to retender the gravel roads reconstruction package B in 2022. And option 3 is that council directs administration to bring additional information back to a future meeting of council.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion on this one? Councillor Jubenville.
I'll make the motion, Mr. Reeve, that we go to option 3.
Okay, to bring back additional information once again as requested to a future meeting of council. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, 7.4.6.
7.4.6, the 2021 engineering award reconstruction of Township Road 630 from Secondary Highway 892 to Range Road 433. And the council options are that council approved the award of engineering services for reconstruction of Township Road 630 from Secondary Highway 892 to Range Road 433 to McElhaney Engineering for $365,122 with an additional expenditure of $10,000 for the land acquisition costs. And furthermore, the council approves the transfer of $75,122 into the Infrastructure Services 2021 capital budget from the Roads Improvement Reserve Fund. Option 2, the council denies the award of engineering tender and re-tender the project in 2022. And option number 3, the council directs administration to bring additional information for this tender award to a future council meeting.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion on this one? Sure. Deputy Reeve?
My motion is to, item 3, to bring back further information.
Okay, for this tender at a future meeting. Thank you. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question, Mr. Reeve.
Yep.
So, Mr. Bespalko, do you think that like the increase in a lot of these projects is due to COVID because of how, you know, extra costs probably in how crews have to be dealt with? Is that
Through
part
the
of it?
Reeve, and to all of council, as Mr. CAO mentioned, that we believe that it just, the budgeting for engineering services wasn't accurate because it didn't include project supervision. It just basically included design work, and when we awarded, or when the tenders went out, they included project supervision. So that's mainly the reason why the difference in the budgeted price versus what the actuals were.
Okay. Now, during the break, you had found some numbers there on those road construction prices, and can you give us an idea of percentage-wise on the engineering versus the cost, estimated cost of the road construction?
Certainly, and again, these are going to be a little skewed because the construction costs, for an example, the Township Road 590, Range Road 480 to 483. The engineering was budgeted at $100,000, and the estimated cost for construction was $1.9 million. Now, because the engineering was broken out as project supervision was included in the $1.9 million. So if we look at what that project cost was, you'd have to extrapolate the project supervision from that 1.9 million, which would give you the remainder as construction services. So I don't know, I really don't know what that would be. Let me look at, I can do a rough calculation, I guess.
That's okay. Mr. Seo?
Yeah, I thank you, Mr. Members of Council. 1.9 million was the estimate of the road.
Sure.
100,000, we're at 5%.
Yeah.
Even if there was a couple more percentage points for project supervision. So one of the questions that is often asked is, will we just have an engineering done and we put it on the shelf? The problem is that most engineering firms want to have the project supervision, because if we just engineer the project and have blueprints put on the shelf, I guarantee that when we go out to tender, another engineering firm may win the project supervision. There's going to be major changes made back to that original blueprint, because every engineer will have a slightly different opinion as to how that project should be done, which is why it's my opinion that when we engineer the project supervision, then it goes on the shelf. If we don't actually go ahead and do the project, we don't pay the project supervision piece of that. Again, many engineers are reluctant to do a blueprint only to find out that somebody else is going to build their blueprint, because there also becomes issues engineer to engineer.
Yep.
In terms of design. They're pretty proprietary when they put a beaver stamp on something. That's why we prefer to see project supervision included in that original estimate, which should bump that to a 10 to a 12% of the overall project cost.
Okay, good. All right, let's go. Let's keep moving on. Let's go to Sunset Beach Road.
All right, thank you, Mr. Reeve, members of council. Sunset Beach Road drainage improvements. At the regular meeting of council on June 23rd, 2021, administration presented council with an update of possible options regarding Sunset Beach drainage improvements. Administration was tasked with bringing back alternative options, including in-house solutions and construction. Administration has revisited the site and reviewed the project scope of work. Administration has completed the culvert inspection and drafted a plan to assist with drainage concerns within the subdivision. The drainage plan includes ditching along the subdivision road and Range Road 463, placement of culverts, and recontouring of the subdivision road. The runoff in the proposed plan will have the majority of the water flowing through the municipal reserve lot and ultimately to Moose Lake, significantly reducing the impact to the residential lots. Final grade of the subdivision road will have a cold mix surface. And as this draft is conceptual solution, additional engineering would be recommended at this time for modeling purposes. And attached are Appendix A, B, and C for what we had planned. So what we can do is just go through that a little bit if you want to have some questions. Appendix A is the rough draft of what it would be looking like. Thank you. So the agricultural catchment area, it all flows toward the lake. Everything flows toward the lake, and you have the range road, the main range road going alongside of the subdivision road. What the plan is to relocate the existing culvert on the bottom of your screen and put a culvert in just a little ways up, ditch to that culvert, have it go across the main range road, have it flow north again, and where that large orange circle is, that is a hill cut, or that is where the water would have to go through the hill. So there's two proposals, option 1A and option 1B. Option 1A is to cut the hill and then ditch. Option 1B is to install a culvert from one side to the next. And then from there, it continues to flow north where it'll get into a culvert and flow across the municipal reserve, draining through the vegetated reserve and into Moose Lake.
Councillor Jubenville.
Is there a culvert there now that goes to the municipal reserve?
Correct.
There is.
Sorry,
that's
through the
existing.
yes.
Okay, Councillor Philippe.
So when you cut the hill, is there going to be any issues with strength as far as keeping up the road? Is there any going to be, are we causing any other disturbance if we cut the hill?
Through the reeve, again, as it's conceptual, probably geotechnical would have to be done. This is a 2-meter cut. I don't know what we would be dealing with at that cut. It may be pure sand. It might be good clay. We wouldn't know until we did some additional testing. Like I said, geotechnical is probably one of the things, especially with a hill cut of that size.
Councillor Jubenville.
So at this point, is this a plan that's put together in-house, and we would have to go to engineers and environment, or not?
Through the reeve to all of council, yes. This plan is in-house, conceptual in-house. What we would probably do is go to a drafts person, at least to get the cut fills so that we have stakes that we could survey off of. Environmental approval would be necessary for this, and we have the capability in-house to proceed with the applications for this in-house.
Okay, thank you.
So we're not too sure exactly where we're going yet, because once you get in environment involved, there's a possibility that we would need a holding pond or detention pond on our MR, possibly, or not.
Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve, members of council. The trick to this project is there will be likely some environmental approval required, but as we are trying to modify existing drainage courses off Sunset Beach Road, we don't think the environmental approval will be that significant. Now, if we were creating brand-new drainage slopes and brand-new culverts and a completely different plan that hasn't been there historically, that would probably be a much bigger deal, and you could end up with those things. We don't think we're going to get there right away. Even in some of the things, if you look at the package in terms of previous administration was reluctant to do a scope of, there's the one culvert in particular where the landowner was indicating that in the spring, water was coming out out of the ground, like a wading pool. And you can see the pictures of the culvert. We did scope the culvert itself. That cost us $2,500, $3,000 to scope the culvert, and you can see why there's water coming out of it. So it's not cheap to line that culvert, but that will certainly improve that particular resident's lifestyle by having a liner in that culvert that will have the water going to where it's supposed to at the lake. That doesn't really require much at environment, because environment, that's already an approved drainage system. So, I think the guys have done some really good work, and what we're looking for is just to get some go-ahead from council just to keep moving forward with this, so we can have a plan in place for to send off for approvals and potentially even construction next year.
Councillor Shane?
I'd like to make a motion to approve this.
Okay, so to that we accept the Sunset Beach Road and drainage improvements conceptual design as information, and furthermore that council directs administration to proceed with additional engineering for the project as required. Okay, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next item is Watercourse crossing remediation.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve, members of council. The Alberta Environment and Parks established the Watercourse Crossing Remediation Grant Program in 2021 to provide financial and planning assistance to municipalities to remediate and reclaim roadway crossings that are causing erosion, excessive sedimentation, and fragmentation of fish habitat in Alberta. At the council committee meeting of February 17, 2021, an update for the Township Road 630 and Manitoulin Creek Culvert in Appendix A was presented, discussing the need to replace the bridge file culvert. The update outlined engineering estimates at $26,000 to be conducted in 2023, and a bridge file construction estimated at $494,000 in 2024. There is a potential for grant funding assistance for this project, and this project should meet the criteria of this project should meet the criteria of the grant. Advancing the timeline of this project could result in a cost savings for the MD. If the funding is awarded, administration would need to proceed with completing the Township Road 630 and Manitoulin Creek Crossing project in 2022 instead of the 2023-2024 as planned. So for your review in Appendix A is the RFD to Council from February 17th, 2021, and the map for the Manitoulin Creek crossing.
Okay. Questions on this one? Councillor Shane.
So if all goes well, this could be all grant funding? Or is that what I'm reading into this?
Through the Reeve, Ms. Kienbaugh might be able to speak more on that, but I don't believe there was a limit to the funding. Am I correct?
Through the Reeve, we do not believe it will be 100%. They would not, according to the requirements or the guidelines, they don't actually commit to a certain percentage, so, or a maximum. It's very open.
Okay.
Councillor
Mr. Reeve,
Swiger.
I'll just make the motion to go ahead with that grant application as recommended.
Okay, go ahead with the recommendation that council directs administration to proceed with submitting an application for the Watercourse Crossing Remediation Grant Program for the bridge file located on Township Road 630 and Manitoulin Creek. Furthermore, that council approves advancing the timeline of engineering and construction to 2022, pending award of funding from the grant program. That's good. Okay, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
Time in the hot seat is done. Can we pop open the door? I'm not sure if our visitors have arrived. No, okay. Okay, we will carry on with the CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve, members of council. I'll turn these next few over to Ms. Kiambo.
Okay. First item is municipal policy update.
Following a review at a recent leadership meeting of all policies, a list of all policies here at the MD, administration is proposing to rescind multiple policies that are either outdated or no longer required. There are 4 policies which we have brought forward for council's consideration to rescind. The first one is policy 2B019, grant revenue recognition policy. This policy is no longer required as the Public Sector Accounting Standards Board, which we are governed through, already defines the parameters for all accounting of government transfers. The second one, actually, I'll go step by step. Does anybody have any questions or concerns with this one? Okay, thank you. Policy number 3A.001, land use bylaw enforcement policy. This policy is not required as the enforcement authorities and protocols are already outlined within the current land use bylaw. It is very brief and brief.
It looked redundant.
Yes,
Yeah.
very much so.
Yeah.
Any questions? Okay. Third one is policy number 5A015, use of liquid strychnine policy. This policy is no longer required as the sale and use of strychnine is now prohibited within the province of Alberta. And the fourth one is policy number 5B006, waste services emergency communications policy. This policy is no longer required as emergency communications are already addressed within the MD's working alone protocols and procedures. And the monthly reimbursement for cell phones is built into the MD practice across the entire organization. So attached for council's review are all 4 policies in their full nature. Reference to our strategic plan is that this ties back to an emergent issue, which is to review and update all policies and procedures. Administration is recommending that council approves rescinding the following policies as presented, and again, it is these 4 policies.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Fadev.
Makes perfect sense. I'll make the motion to council option number 1, that council approves rescinding the following policies as presented.
Okay, thank you.
The ones you just mentioned.
Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you.
Next item is regular council and council committee meeting schedule.
Yes. Considering multiple upcoming event conflicts and the municipal election scheduled this October, administration is bringing forward a recommendation to council to consider the canceling and or rescheduling of a number of upcoming regular and committee meetings of council. Additionally, administration is also bringing forward a recommendation to approve the council meeting schedule for the remainder of the 2021 calendar year. So what this equates to are the dates that are stated under the discussion. If you're more of a visual person like myself, we've also attached it in Appendix A as the next quarter's calendar. So to kind of go over it month by month, September, we are recommending that we cancel the September 1st and September 15th committee meetings of council. Those would be canceled due to the proximity to the municipal election. However, we are recommending that the regular meetings of council on September 8th and 22nd remain. In October, we are recommending, again, due to the proximity to the election, that the council committee, the council meeting, and again, the council committee on the 20th, so the 6th, 13th, and 20th be canceled. Now, I should clarify on October 20th, being that this is the first, it was the first date of a council committee after the October 18th election. What we've proposed and included in the candidates package is that we do a brief orientation with the new council, and it's more of a staff orientation, so council becomes aware of the departments and and what we do. So there is an event, it's just not a formal council meeting. And then into November, we have a number of events that, training opportunities and events that council attends. So due to those conflicts, we are recommending that the 3 standard dates of meetings, which is November 10th, 17th, and 24th, are not scheduled. However, that we do schedule a meeting on November 12th for the month of November. In addition, which will be coming to a meeting of council here in the very near future, is we're also incorporating the budget deliberations around that, which is going to include approximately 4 or 5 meetings around this same calendar. And then finally in December, that we do schedule the 3 standard meetings of council on the 8th, the 15th, and the 22nd.
Mr. Reeve, October 20th will not be canceled then, right?
It would be a brief meeting, yeah.
Yeah, orientation.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any? Councilor DeShane.
So through the Reeve, currently we were happy to hear that the rural municipalities of Alberta is actually going to be holding an elected officials training session here in Bonnyville. So it's a 2-day session, which is conflicting on the 10th of November. Oh, sorry, November 3rd. November 3rd wasn't noted as a potential meeting date, but that is a possibility.
Does administration see any possibility that there might be some requests for decision that need to be handled on that first day in Wednesday, or first Wednesday in November?
Thank you, Mr. Reeve, members of council. I would suggest that some of those dates, such as November 3rd, there may be something in the calendar, not maybe specifically as a regular council meeting. I could see a budget day, those type of things.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
coming through there, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve.
Yep.
Why is it November 12th, not November 10th? November 12th is a Friday.
Through the Reeve, to the Deputy Reeve, November 10th is still the RMA elected official training program.
Oh, that still is, okay.
Yeah, the Tuesday and the Wednesday, the 9th and the 10th of November.
Oh, yeah.
RMA is actually coming here to Bonnyville, and that's why we moved it to the Friday.
Okay. Councilor Fadave.
Just a little bit more information on September 23rd, this is kind of an information session. Is that held? Damn, thank you. On the 23rd, on Thursday, on September, says Canada Information Session. Is that held here in council, or where's that held at?
Through the Reeve, yes, it is. It's an evening session with myself and the CAO, just to go over for all the candidates who have submitted their nomination forms, a little bit of orientation on who we are, what we do, and what the processes are moving forward.
And scheduled deadline for nomination papers is when again?
Nomination deadline is 12 noon on Monday, September 20th.
Thank you.
Also, Mr. Reeve, I just confirmed with our corporate services general manager that November 3rd is one of the tentative dates we would like to bring forward for budget deliberations.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, with that, do we have a motion that council approves the cancellation of the meetings listed? Yeah. It's in there.
Through the Reeve, the 20th isn't a formal meeting because at that point, council hasn't been sworn in. Thank you very much. So it's an informal meeting.
Okay. Okay. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, the municipal shirt fundraising.
Yes. So the MD ran a hashtag. Oh, yes. We actually, sorry, my apologies, Mr. Reeve. We required 2 motions on that last RFD.
Okay.
One is for the cancellation, which was passed. However, we also need one to approve the scheduling of the remaining ones for till the end of December.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I see it there now. Who wants to make that one? Councillor Jubenville makes the motion. All in favor? That's carried.
Thank you. So yes, our hashtag Take It to the Lake t-shirt fundraising campaign was circulated to staff and the public this summer from June to August that promoted our campgrounds in the MD. The proceeds raised from the promotion of approximately $1,000 will be split evenly and donated to the Cold Lake Food Bank and the Bonnyville Friendship Center food banks. Administration is proposing that council again match the funds raised from the summer shirt program to be donated as above. In previous t-shirt campaigns, this would actually be our 3rd campaign that we've run. This has been the decision of council in the past, so administration is just bringing it forward for council's consideration. What this would, in the end, the total donation from the MD to the 2 food banks would total $2,433.06. So
Yeah,
council.
Mr. Reeve, I'll make the motion to approve the recommended action.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Fadave.
Just more of a comment. It's a fun way to promote or take it to the lakes and a good way to raise some money for the food banks. Good job.
Thank you.
All right, all in favor? That's carried, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, council invitations.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve, members of council. The only invitation we have today is an invitation for council to the Through the Looking Glass, a circular economy conference, the Recycling Council of Alberta. The RCA is holding a conference September 29th through to October 1st at the Fairmont Banff Springs Hotel with dialogue around the circular economy and recycling with leading environmental presenters. The early bird registration fee is $750 for a non-member and $875 per person past the early bird deadline. Hotel accommodations not included. The administrative recommendation that council approves councillors to attend the event as indicated there in the administrative recommended action.
I'll make a comment on this one. This close to, again, to an election, I think it's inappropriate to send anyone away to a conference, not knowing who's going to even be in these chairs only 20 days after it. I'm not so sure that, we've got the CARE conference coming up that we're hosting. The requirement to send people to this one, I couldn't support it. Councillor Fadave.
Yeah, it makes total sense. Just the timing is wrong on it, but for sure.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, was that a motion, or Councillor Swigert? Sorry.
No, just a comment. It's unfortunate they did pick that date, though, because
Yeah.
they could easily pick it after the 20th, and then we'd be fine, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we're seeing this with a few things coming forward, so.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, they don't think of elections. That's not their, their thing. And I think with COVID, it bumped everybody. All kinds of dates are all over the place, so for sure.
Okay, do we have a motion there?
I'll make that motion to not attend.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? That's carried.
Mr. Real, I'll just plug it, though, because it is a good event. It's just the wrong time.
Okay, thanks. Correspondence and information.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve, members of council. So we have some correspondence. First today is a letter from Tony and Joan Garun from Westlock, who attended the Vesel Beach Campground and seemed to be quite pleased, so you can read the letter from them. We did receive a letter from Minister McIver. We are eligible for some funding due to the Senate election. and you can see that letter. So we will be receiving an initial grant payment of $25,520, and then a second payment to be made later in the same amount. And that's to host the Senate election, even though our senator's already been appointed. A good news story is we finally received authorization. There's two pieces in your correspondence package. We received authorization from the Director of Environment Parks to allow our peace officers jurisdiction at several of our campgrounds, as opposed to just having to call local law enforcement. We now have the authority to send peace officer. And the MD promotional gifts and the council action report.
Okay, questions?
Yes, Mr. Reeve, I have a question regarding Minister McIver. Are we still talking to him about secondary Highway 657? Does that come up at all every chance we get to?
Through the Reeve to Councillor Jubenville, Minister McIver is no longer the Minister of Transportation. However, that being said, we are waiting with the RMA conference coming up. We are waiting for the list of ministries that will be hosting their. Usually at RMA, you get a 30. You can try to get an appointment to get a 30-minute with any of the ministers. I do have a list of ministers, and we're just waiting for RMA to get that out. If it's even happening this year, which we're not even sure of that yet, as this is the first conference after that. There are probably a list of road issues I think we should be speaking to the new minister about. That would be one of them. One would be the speed limit on Highway 28 at the Ardmore intersection. And I'm just drawing a blank, but there's several of them I think we need to be pressing the minister on.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, with that, we just need a motion then to accept all of this correspondence as information.
I'll make the motion. Thank you.
Councillor Fadeev makes the motion. All in favor? That is carried. Okay, reports from council. Councillor Swigert.
Start with, I think most of us, or some of us, got to the adventure park. It's at the scale, so great to see. There's progress made at the adventure park. So we're looking forward to that opening for sure next spring or summer. A couple of golf tournaments: Bonnyville Chamber, Ronald McDonald Golf Classic, Municipal Golf Tournament in Smoky Lake, and then we had one at Ronald McDonald House in Coal Lake and Bonnyville. So those are always good events to support Ronald McDonald House and the chambers. LaCroix Area Structure Plan, always good to get out to LaCroix and meet with Councillor Duchesne there. And, so, we look forward to good things with those area structure plans. We had lots of other discussions about that, but and that was it.
Okay, Councillor Duchesne.
All right. We just returned, Councillor Fadeev and myself, from Peace River. We did a tour of a recycle incineration project, refuse to energy. And,
Councillor Duchesne, can I get you to turn your microphone
I
on?
pressed the button. It didn't come on. Sorry. Okay. Damn things. So the Peace River tour, we toured a brand new building with a refuse to energy incineration system, and we were quite impressed with it. Councillor Fadeev would probably talk more on it. He knew some of the numbers better than I did, but the equipment looked inexpensive enough and did a lot of work in reducing garbage burial, and I was pretty impressed with it. I don't know if he was or not. We attended LaCroix ASB. That was well attended by our council, appreciated, and looking forward to the upcoming years of maybe some boom and bust years. Lakeland Lodge and Housing, we're having a visit from the minister, Minister Pond, coming up, and looking forward to that. the Cold Lake Seniors group purchased a unit called a Trishaw, or Trishaw, I'm not sure what it is. It's like a three-wheel bicycle that they take seniors on rides with, and going over very well. Lots of very happy seniors taking rides on that unit, so throughout there. And Municipal meeting in Smoky Lake, and then a short golf game went over quite well. Thanks to some of the council for attending that. And ASB, we did we had a big discussion on the disaster program, and we were glad that you guys passed that today, and we'll make a lot of people, a lot of residents, farmers happy. Looking forward to help, but hopefully we can. That's all I have. Thank you.
It has been a pretty quiet week. Again, the Adventure Park that Councillor Swigert mentioned earlier, that was a great viewing point. I'm looking forward to that. So we went to Peace River in regards to the waste to energy pilot project that they have there. They've had some challenges in regards to the dirt that they have to process. They didn't think that the wood chips had as much dirt as they had, so they have this issue with a thing called clankers, and what they are is they're almost like chunks of coal that are made from the dirt. So they're having some issues with that. So we're not going to call it a clunker yet, but we'll just call them clankers. So they're looking at doing a few modifications on it, and it's almost like adding almost like a barrel unit. So they're going to have like a hot zone, and they're going to add like the wet to it as well. And things are looking really promising, and we probably should see some positive results in the next 6 months to 8 months. And so yeah, it's so nice to see that the regulations are looking really good, and they're burning nice and clean. And yeah, again, we'll get some exact answers here within the next 6 to 8 months, but looking really, really, really promising.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Scarson?
Yeah, so I attended a couple of meetings. One was the library. It was a pretty short one. We just talked about budget, the first round of budget talks there, and then Regional Economic Development Committee. Yesterday, the biggest takeaway from that was that we have a sit down with the company that won the branding strategy RFP on the first, to just kind of mull over some ideas for the regional branding strategy that she's working on. So, and then the other thing that I want to mention was that I haven't heard yet today was the Vezo Beach open house or the grand opening is this Friday afternoon. So hopefully everyone can make it out for that.
Councilor Jubenville.
Yeah, I won't take much time here. I'll just echo what Councillor Swigert said, because I attended the exact events he did, and yeah, it was good.
Thank you. I attended the ASB as well, Lakeland Lodge Housing. B&R Eccles donated $2,500 towards an AED for the Bonnie Lodge. No one else has so far. Interesting note of the 37 on the waiting list here in Bonneville, 15 are high-income seniors. Minister Pond being here tomorrow at 9 a.m., 9 to 10. I also attended the RMH golf tournament in Cold Lake, and the Minister and Emily Hansen project funding recognition here in Bonneville. That's all from me. Thank you.
Okay. For myself, I had the extreme pleasure of watching the Cherry Grove lawnmower races, which were incredibly well attended. There was in excess of 300 vehicles there, huge crowd, and well, Lisa was there, and it was fun. You know, the rules, I'm not sure if they totally apply in lawnmower racing, because there was a lot of bumping and smashing in the corners, and those guys don't have seat belts or anything. But it was really entertaining, and it was a great event to the organizers out there at Cherry Grove. Job well done. Had a BRFA meeting, and on that one, you know, lots of questions still coming up in regards to our governance and review. And I would just probably ask administration that we add that as another closed session item for our next meeting. That is it. With that, that brings the regular session to an end. Do we have time to go to closed session? Yeah, okay. All right, we need a motion to go to closed session. Councillor Duchesne, all in favor? That's carried.